launching, and it's called basically Villages for All. So we are launching and announcing right now to you our villages, basically this new initiative, and it's basically a new website that you can already find under Villages for All, and what it is basically concretization of our efforts towards building more diversity and inclusiveness in the village movement. We obviously love what our villages are doing and the village movement, but we think also that there is something we can do towards diversity. So this is what we wanted to explain in this next few slides, and also welcoming your feedback about how can we do this. But so let me tell you why we're doing this. Well, the first reason why we're working on Villages for All is for the next reason. First, you, the villages, have been inventing an outstanding model that is the future of aging, and you already all have seen the picture of my mom on the right of this side, and I wanted the best model for my mom and I think the villages is the best model. Now, I love what villages do, but there's still a lot of people look like my mom that are rare exceptions in villages. Most of the villages that we serve are in some areas and neighborhoods that would not be the neighborhood that my mom is in. And basically, we just want to keep supporting villages that are already helping, and they are great, but we want to try to expand the reach of those villages to other areas. And this is what we want to do with Villages for All. In particular, is something that we need to work on because the numbers don't make sense to me. And you all know that I'm an engineer. I was saying people that look like my mom. Well, you all know that I'm Hispanic, and basically 40% of California are Hispanic. So when we look at our numbers and see the number of Hispanics in California villages, just for an example, because I just lived there and I know what it is, I think the numbers don't make sense to me. So I think we need to be more affirmative and put more energy into increasing diversity of the village model to more communities. Oops, sorry. And then what we want to do also is the other thing that I wanted to say is that, well, first, the villages that are working are great, and also we see great initiatives happening in some areas of the country, in particular in DC and Columbus, where we see that this is happening already, and we thought it was just a good idea to celebrate and highlight these efforts going forward. So basically, I wanted to explain what changes now that we're talking about Villages for All, and basically, I wanted to start saying that Helpful Village stays the same. So we founded Helpful Village, which is a tech company from UC Berkeley, and stays the same. The company stays the same. It's the same team, the same service, the same product, the same technology focus. We're still sponsoring V2V for the conference in the fall. We're working with DC villages and also the Village to Village network on an exciting taxonomy project. So basically, on our day-to-day operations, exact same thing. But basically, what I wanted to say is that there is no change in the way our team uses our time or operates, but the diversity efforts that we were doing before, I think we're going unnoticed because basically they were under this hat of this tech company, and basically they were not visible enough. So basically what we decided to do is coming up with basically a separate nonprofit, which is Villages for All, is a separate entity formally, right? But basically that would take care of these activities related to increasing diversity. So there is a new organization. All the tech activities and the contracts remain the same with Helpful Village, but all the work that we will be doing for diversity will be done through this separate nonprofit organization that is called Villages for All. Okay, let me go back on one thing. So one thing that I wanted to mention, because we had this idea and I was discussing with some people, one thing that I wanted to clarify is that this changes nothing in the way our team operates, right? So we'll still keep working on Helpful Village, with the same time and intensity, but it's just more of a classification of our activities. These diversity things that we were doing before, we have to do them, and they will happening now under this other umbrella. So I would be happy to get your feedback. Now, it's always hard during the Zoom meeting, but just that that if you send me an email or something, I would be interested in what you think. But I also wanted to share with you what I think. Uh, um, and some people would say, well, do we need to do this, right? It's like, why don't you focus on the technology side and the diversity? Just don't do it. And I think we don't have a choice. We need to do this. And I wanted to share some of my personal views on this. The first thing that I wanted to say is that I had heard about racism in Europe before I moved to the US, and I experienced it in the USA. And I wanted to make very clear that racism exists everywhere. I think there is racism in Europe, but it just happened to be in a group, socioeconomic or whatever, that made that I was not suffering from it. There is other, immigration coming from Africa and stuff that I'm sure they have plenty of problems. But it was kind of quite new for me when I moved to the USA to experience discrimination on my own skin, which was a huge surprise to me. So basically, this is something, not a topic that I can ignore. I also learned a lot about this kind of how is racism managed. And one of the things that I learned is that it's an uncomfortable conversation, right? It's really something that is hard to bring up. It's difficult to talk about it on both sides. It's difficult for the person that has gone through discrimination. And it's also difficult for people that are on the other end that have their own problems, and they don't need to talk about, have other problems coming from other people. So that was interesting. But at the same time, it's kind of really hard for me, the fact that, sometimes being discriminated against and basically carry that way without the possibility of doing anything or nothing about it, it was really heavy for me. It has happened to me where I thought I was told something that I thought I would never hear. So that basically what I was doing was not my place, that I was supposed to keep my head down and basically, keep my head down, just shut up and dribble in a way. So, and all those things I've been confronted with, and it's really heavy on me. And I said, well, I cannot live with that. And basically, I need to do something. And basically, this is this initiative where basically I think it's liberating, doing the right thing to promote more diversity for all. Now, the other thing that I wanted to say is that because it's an uncomfortable conversation, and I'm sorry to make you uncomfortable that we're talking about discrimination and racism on this webinar, but we will be focusing on the positive, basically. So we don't want to talk about the difficult aspects of discrimination. I have my own share of experiences there, but we should not be talking about that. So we will be geared toward action and achievement, basically. So what we want to do about diversity is just celebrate when we see things that are going the right way. And this is basically some of the things that are presented in the new website that I said before that you can go in and visit. So if you go to villagesforall.org, it's a website of our new nonprofit, and we celebrate some of the success stories that we have seen. One of the success stories is a new village that we are collaborating with. It's called Kingdom Care Senior Village in Washington, D.C. And basically, they are serving a community with a diverse background, and we are very happy to work with them, and that makes us very happy. Not only in D.C., we see that happening also in Columbus, Ohio. We have done other efforts translating the software into Spanish. There are other things that are exciting. So basically, all these things that we think are having a positive impact towards diversity is some things that we'll be celebrating and doing on the Villages for All website. The other thing that I wanted to say is that, we are part of this because it's part of our core values. So Helpful Village is a supporter of Villages for All, which is a separate entity. And I think we're in this all together. So I know there are many villages across the country that are doing their fair share to promote, diversity within their own communities and their local actions. And we think that is great. So if there is any chance we can help you achieve or celebrate your success in your own individual villages, that's great. And then if we can work together towards this mission, is something that we would be super proud to do. So just wanted to make this